Well, hello and welcome to Business 360. I am Ashmit Kumar, and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty end in the red for the third straight day after failing to hold on to intraday gains. 22 lakh crore rupees of investor wealth wiped out in the last 3 days. The Indian rupee weakens to a new record low for the fifth straight day. Demand for US treasuries and the dollar push the rupee closer to the 84 mark against the greenback. An uneasy calm on the streets of Dhaka after Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled to India. Bangladesh president dissolves the parliament. India's external affairs minister says border guards are on high alert and India is monitoring the situation of minorities in Bangladesh. The political upheaval in Bangladesh is a fresh spot of bother for Indian consumer companies like Marico, Emami and Bajaj Consumer. Paint maker Kansai Nerolac may feel the pinch too. On the other hand, Indian textile companies expect more order inflows. Infosys seeks 10 days to seek reply to a pre-show cause notice from the Central GST Enforcement Authority. Sources say 10 foreign airlines operating in India also get GST notices worth 10,000 crore rupees. International Air Travel Association calls the levy flawed and warns that it could dampen India's aviation potential. CBI lodges an FIR against Hindalco 8 years after registering a preliminary inquiry. Alleges violation of environmental clearance granted for coal mining in Odisha from 2000 to 2013. The FIR also names Chandni, then director in the Environment Ministry, for allegedly providing undue benefits to Hindalco. Sources say the government prefers grandfathering till July as a relief to counter the removal of indexation benefits for real estate, also considering if people should have the option to choose between the old and the new capital gains tax regime. No final decision yet. Ola Electric's 6,000 crore rupee IPO receives twice the number of bids for the shares of offer. Institutional investors fully subscribed to the issue on the last day. Akasa Air will grow by 50% in this financial year, says founder and CEO Vinay Dubey, as it enters the third year of operations. Adds that the path to profitability will be on par with the finest companies without providing a definite timeline. That's an exclusive. Fears of an escalation in the Middle East intensify after US troops are attacked in Iraq. Israel bombs the West Bank, killing 8 people. More than 39,600 Palestinians have been killed so far, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Wrestler Vinesh Phogat stuns the world #1 and defending champion Sasaki of Japan with a dramatic last-gasp victory. Enters the quarterfinals. Defending champion in javelin Neeraj Chopra easily qualifies for the final. Well, here's a top story this evening. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's iron fist rule of 15 years that saw stifling of opposition voices, crackdown against journalists and allegations of human rights violation has come to an end yesterday. Hours after Hasina tendered her resignation and fled to India, the army chief said that an interim government would be put in place. The students' body, which has been at the forefront of the protest, said that they want Nobel Prize winner Muhammad Yunus to serve as the chief advisor for the interim government. Today, the Bangladesh president dissolved the parliament. He also ordered the release of opposition leader and BNP matriarch Khalida Zia, who is currently serving a 17-year sentence in a graft case. Yesterday was the culmination of months-long protests by students and activists. It first began largely as a peaceful movement against a High Court ruling in favor of reinstating 30% quota in government jobs for descendants of freedom fighters. But it gradually transformed into a full-blown movement against the government after the Hasina government began a brutal crackdown against the protesters. Over 400 protesters have been killed since yesterday. Protesters stormed the PM's official residence, the parliament building, as well as vandalizing the premises. Back in India, the government has called for an all-party meeting to apprise political leaders of developments in the neighborhood. Speaking at the parliament later, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said that the government was in continuous touch with the Indian community in Bangladesh through diplomatic relations. However, the government is yet to clarify on whether or not Hasina has sought asylum in India.
On 5th August, demonstrators converged in Dhaka despite the curfew. Our understanding is that after a meeting with leaders of the security establishment, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina apparently made the decision to resign. At very short notice, she requested approval to come for the moment to India. We simultaneously received a request for flight clearance from Bangladesh authorities. She arrived yesterday evening in Delhi. We are in close and continuous touch with the Indian community in Bangladesh through our diplomatic missions. There are an estimated 19,000 Indian nationals there, of which about 9,000 are students. The bulk of the students, however, have already returned to India in the month of July.
Well, for more on that and the latest on what the on-ground reality is as far as Dhaka is concerned, we're joined by senior journalist Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhry, joining us from Dhaka. Also with us on this panel is Aneek R. Haq, a barrister from Bangladesh, also with us on the program. Mr. Haq was one of the lawyers representing petitioners seeking an order for the police to refrain from firing on protesters. Mr. Chaudhry, Mr. Haq, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Chaudhry, let me come to you. We've seen different emotions which mark different stage of these protests that we've seen over the last 1 month. There was first initially a sense of frustration, then a sense of extreme anger. Since yesterday, we've seen a sense of euphoria taking over the protesters, taking over the students, taking over the country. The fear that many are expressing is that this could next translate into a sense of majoritarianism, a sense of extremism, also resulting in perhaps attacks on minorities, which are already being reported, are not being verified, but reported so far. What are you picking up from what's on the ground? What is the mood at this point, 24 hours after Sheikh Hasina has resigned?
Thank you very much. Actually, since the Sheikh Hasina resigned yesterday and she fled the country or left the country, so there is in the name of celebration, there is vandalism in the official residence of the Prime Minister and also in the Parliament House and many other places. And until now, we are getting report of attacks on Hindus, Hindu properties, Hindu homes, Hindu temples. So when this kind of the acts are continuing, just now we have received an information that Bangladesh police has set forward 9-point demand, and until their demand will be met, they will go for a strike. This is a condition. On the other hand, the leaders, the conveners of the anti-dress discrimination student movement, they are coming up with their own proposal for an interim government with Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus as the head of their proposed interim government. And they are also saying, very interestingly, they say that the tenure of this interim government should be 3 to 6 years, because they are not only demanding holding of an election, they are demanding a reform in various places in the country or in the state system. So this is something happening in one hand. Other hand, Khalida Zia has been released from the prison, and the president has dissolved, as he was saying, the parliament. So BNP is now demanding holding of the election within the next 3 months. And they are also demanding formation of the interim government immediately. So this is a very kind of the confrontational situation. And if you are getting information from the Bangladesh media, Tariq Rahman, BNP's acting chairman from London, he is giving statements, and they are trying to give an impression that BNP is a ruling party. So, I mean, it's a kind of the chaotic situation, very chaotic in Bangladesh.
chaotic situation. Let me take that across to Mr. Haq. Mr. Haq, similar question to you, that the apprehension coming from various quarters is that the degree of anger that we had seen against Sheikh Hasina will now translate into that public momentum and public opinion consolidating in the hands of people on the extreme end, or the other extreme end, which in this case would happen to be Islamists, extremists, fundamentalists. That is the apprehension. Is that a valid fear? Is that the momentum that you're also seeing in Dhaka and other parts of the country?
No, sir. I humbly disagree on this point. We have seen some sort of vandalism in the ruling parties. That was the Sheikh Hasina's home, and very deplorably the where our Bangabandhu used to stay. That was a museum and all these, and in the parliament. But at the same time, when this was done, after that today, we have seen that the things that has been snatched away from there are slowly being returned. And today the students actually started cleaning the parliament and restoring them. The students themselves started this. At the same time, there has been some stray incidents which we've been hearing or seeing in the Facebook, that some sort of like goons have been trying to attack the homes of Hindus and temples. But right then, in the evening, when these things started breaking out, people started revolting against that. And
sure.
I have seen myself that students of all the madrasas and the students, they have surrounded the temples to save their Hindu brothers. And I have actually been talking, and we have been all night. I myself have been standing near a temple where I have seen that all walks of people from the backgrounds of Muslim or Hindu, they have been there trying to stop the vandalism over there. So I believe that, yes, there has been some incidents, but at the same time, people are coming into their senses and stopping these and protecting our minority.
Sure. Let me then ask you a follow-up question. Sure. Let me then ask you a follow-up question with respect to the road ahead. We are looking at an interim government. We're yet to have a final confirmation from Mohammad Yunus whether or not he's agreed to lead that formation or whether he's agreed to assist in the form of a chief advisor. We're still awaiting a final word on that. I just want to get a word in, Mr. Haq, from you on the role of the army. The historical lessons that the subcontinent teaches us is that any time the army takes a role which is front and center, it doesn't usually end well, and that's the apprehension, that's the fear here as well. Are we being too trusting in terms of placing all the trust? Is the country being too trusting of the army, trusting the benevolence and the graciousness of the military leaders at this point?
You see, the situation in Bangladesh was such that even we have welcomed the army, anyone but Sheikh Hasina, that was sort of like the mentality over here. And now actually from what I'm getting from the students' movements and they have taken help of the army to depose her, but they do not want army to be in power. That is exactly why probably what we are getting, that the advisory body that is being prepared, that there is no influence of army. They're trying to make sure of that, and people also want that, because the experience in this subcontinent when the army comes to power is not really good, and people have taken a lesson from that, and they are not at all willing to be under the army rule. So yes, army has been sort of like dependent upon, but they are not dependent upon for ruling the country, running the country. That would be left with, not with the politicians at this moment, rather from the civil society who has experience in all these.
Right. Mr. Chaudhary, coming to you now again, just to get some facts from you. You're there on the ground. Will you be able to assist us in terms of what the situation looks ahead for the composition of this interim government? A lot of speculation, a lot of questions. We were hearing names of Dr. Salimullah Khan last evening. This morning, that name has turned into Mohammad Yunus. We are yet to get a final word from him. What does the composition of this interim framework look like? Or what will be the mandate of this interim government? When are we likely to see elections?
You see, just a few hours ago, Mr. Sharjiz Alam, one of the key conveners of the student protest, he in a Facebook post said that Islam will be the ruling law of Bangladesh, and Quran will be the constitution of the country. And when I just picked up his Facebook post and tweeted on my Twitter account, and it was already reported in some media, and he quickly removed that post. But whether he quickly removed that post or what, but it shows their intention of turning Bangladesh into a neo-Taliban state. And their tendency is like that. And as we just heard that Parliament is being cleaned. No, Bangladesh Parliament has been devastated, completely ransacked. It is not cleaning is not enough. It is ransacked. It will need a lot of money to rebuild or refurbish the whole thing. So Parliament is ruined. And when Parliament is ruined, democracy is at risk. And I don't see any possibility of any democratic atmosphere in this country, even in the distant future, no.
Interesting thoughts, those. A lot of question marks being raised here, a lot of chaos there as far as Dhaka is concerned. Dramatic visuals coming out of Bangladesh at this moment. We'll, of course, continue to get you the latest from the developments from India's neighborhood. Mr. Haq, Mr. Chaudhary, appreciate you joining us with your time and perspective. With that, we're heading into a very short break. But coming up, Sensex and Nifty end in the red for the third straight day after failing to hold on to intraday gains. More on that when we come back. Welcome back. Let's begin with a quick look at the stock market action for the day. A day of volatility on the Lal Street as Sensex and Nifty failed to hold on to intraday gains. In fact, both the indices ended at the low point of the day, closing in the red for the third straight session. In the last three sessions, investor wealth to the tune of 22 lakh crore rupees has been wiped out. Global cues were mixed today. European markets remained in the red, but Asia saw some bounce back. Japan's Nikkei gained 10% today after plummeting 12% yesterday. Shares also bounced back on Korea, but no such luck in Hong Kong and mainland China. The Indian rupee, meanwhile, weakened to a new record low for the fifth straight day. Demand for US treasuries and the dollar pushed the rupee closer to the 84 mark against the greenback. An IT major, Infosys, has sought 10 days to respond to pre-show cause notice sent by the Central GST Authority. This comes a week after the company was sent the notice to the tune of over 32,000 crore rupees by the Directorate General of GST Intelligence. Sources tell us that the notice was sent after proper assessment and due diligence. Well, speaking of GST, the Directorate General of GST Intelligence has sent show cause notices to 10 foreign airline companies operating in India to the tune of over 10,000 crore rupees. We have learned from sources that Emirates has been sent a notice for allegedly evading taxes worth 7,500 crore rupees, while Etihad has been sent a notice for 1,660 crore rupees. The tax authority has claimed that these notices were pertaining to unpaid taxes on import of services by Indian branches from their head offices. And meanwhile, opposition parties staged a protest in the parliament against GST on health and life insurance premiums. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari wrote a letter to his colleagues in the finance ministry, particularly Nirmala Sitharaman, seeking removal of the GST. West Bengal's Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has also made the same demand. Now, opposition leader Rahul Gandhi has also thrown his weight behind the demand to scrap GST on health and life insurance products. And also importantly, the CBI has now registered a case of corruption against Hindalco Industries and a former director of the Environment Ministry. 8 years after registering a preliminary inquiry, the agency is probing allegations that Hindalco violated the green clearance for coal mining in Odisha from 2000 to 2013. Abhimanyu Sharma is joining us now with more details. Abhimanyu, tell us about this CBI case. Why are we seeing this case move forward 8 years after the preliminary inquiry?
The CBI is probing the alleged violation of green clearances granted for coal mining in Orissa between 2000 and 2013. It's also probing the alleged bribes to officials from the Ministry of Environment and Forests. A corruption case has been filed by the CBI naming Hindalco Industries, then director of MOEF T. Chandani, and several others as accused. Now, interestingly, the issue dates back to the duration between 2011 and 2013. The preliminary inquiry was filed in 2016 and the FIR was filed as late as 2024. Now, according to the FIR, Hindalco Industries had allegedly violated the environmental clearances granted for coal mining in Orissa and had mined 3.045 million tons of excess coal than the permitted capacity. Then director of MOEF has also been allegedly misusing her office as per the FIR. She granted further environmental clearances to the private company to double their coal mining capacity in prohibition of the rules laid down by the ministry in critically polluted areas. It remains to be seen how early any action would be taken in this case and whether any former officials or any private persons would be questioned in course of time.
Right, Abhimanyu, thanks a lot for that. Now, Akasa Air will grow by 50% this financial year. That's the word coming in from founder and CEO Vinay Dubey as it enters the third year of operations. Speaking in an exclusive conversation with Shireen Bhan, Dubey confidently added that the airline's path to profitability will be on par with the world's finest companies without providing a definite timeline. Take a look.
What should we expect realistically in terms of capacity addition for this financial year?
So this financial year, we've said that we will grow by 50% compared to the last. Last financial year, we grew 300% compared to the previous. So 50%, 300%, these are numbers that we haven't seen before for an airline at this stage. And by the way, we're not talking about going from 1 to 2. You know, these are on a pretty fast base. I mean, I think we've talked about it before, but Akasa in its first year has broke, you know, every conceivable record globally in the 123-year history of global aviation. So 50% in this particular fiscal year.
And when we last spoke, you said that you were also looking at doubling pilots. You know, what is the position on that front? Are you still going ahead with that plan?
Yeah, in fact, Shireen, this is, you know, as Belson talked about, we're building not just a brand for our consumers, but being employee-centric from day one is something we've talked about, right? We've talked about being, you know, having service leadership, cost leadership, employee centricity, and, you know, building this on a platform of world-class safety. So employee centricity has been a super important element of who we are. I'm happy to report that we've got over 800 or approximately 800 pilots already with Akasa. So at this point, we've actually stopped pilot hiring.
Okay.
We've got, and part of the reason we've been able to attract pilots is because of our employee centricity, the patterns that we offer, the lifestyle patterns that we offer our employees, the focus we've got on training, the new generation of aircraft that we're flying, we're very, you know, the respect and transparency with which we hope we treat them, and not just pilots, but all our employees. So at this point, specifically, we're no longer hiring pilots, and we will be that way for some period of time.
Okay, and the legal issues that you had with pilots, is that a thing of the past? And what have been the lessons learned from that experience?
You know, to be honest, I think we're all of that is well in the past. And for us, we're just, you know, focusing on making sure that that we continue down our path of being employee-centric. And so that's, you know, that's where we are today.
Well, you can catch that entire conversation with Vinay Dubey and Belson Coutinho of Akasa Air with Shireen Bhan at 7:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV 18. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC TV 18.